gathering. So every first Saturday gathering, and Sarah, would you come and join me? Invite Sarah Oliver up, would you guys, as she comes? Yeah. So every first Saturday, we celebrate life, we celebrate family, and we celebrate, let me turn this on for you, we celebrate transformation in people's lives. You know, Jesus came and paid a price on the cross for two things: for lives transformed, and then the empowerment of those lives to go and transform culture. How many of you know that we're called to make a difference in the world? Can I get an amen? So I want to hear a little bit about, Sarah, your journey, but let's do a little specific angle on that question as it relates to transformation. How did God use the creative, just in general, and then maybe you could give a more specific example of how that happened throughout the harbor in your life to bring some inner transformation to your heart, the gospel? Love to hear that.
How to use the creative. Okay, well, what I know in hindsight now, because I didn't know it was happening at the time, was God was giving me a way to get my insides out. So it was like, you know, I was so used to living outside of myself that it was one of those things where I needed to get inside and see what was really going on. And so yeah, I think that was the first way. And I guess I look at it today like it's like a conversation, you know. Creativity, God, and you know, we're all creative in nature. You know, we are made by the Creator of, you know, and we are creation. We carry that, but that's a big concept to deal with. You know, I didn't understand that, and so He gave me a way to kind of pull me into that, and to start really trusting that. So creativity really isn't about believing I can do something. It's about trusting God.
That's awesome. And you mentioned this inside out work versus an outside in work. Explain the difference of that, because I think that's what we're all coming to understand as it relates to transformation. It's not a religious thing that's external efforts, if you will, to change our lives in some way, but it's actually an internal thing that's more relational. How did the creativity really get in there and start on the inside that was so different than anything you'd experienced before, maybe outside in, if you will?
Right. Well, what I was experiencing was music, sound, movement, color. Those are all things that move my insides. And so, you know, I began having, you know, like encounters with those things. And so I would write about it. I would continue in my journaling, and it became, like I said, a conversation. It developed a relationship with God beyond what I knew. You know, it's intimacy that I didn't know with myself and with God. So it was self-discovery, it was self-expression, but most importantly, it was me getting to know God. It was like we were having a relationship that was deeper than I'd had before. So it was not about this God up here.
Yep.
You know, it was about what I carry, you know, and what He was revealing to me.
Beautiful. And I think, as you expressed, there was these elements creatively that He was using to pull on your heart, and that was unique to you. But how many of you know in this room, there's ways that God takes creativity in different ways in each of us to kind of pull on our hearts as well. How can you explain one maybe example of in a creative moment in Harbor or through a creative expression of Harbor where God really impacted your life over these years? Is there one that you can think of?
There's been lots. I've been thinking about this, like what I would share, and I'm just going to share about like the first like big thing was I was driving home after our meeting, and I had been really moved during worship, and what I felt like in my spirit was paint it. And I out loud I said, I'm not a painter. And as I'm saying I'm not a painter, inside was like, what do I have to lose? I just left church, and these people are like moving, and they're so free, and why am I resisting that? So
Can we pause right there? I think that is such a common thing to so many people, right?
Yeah.
We feel God speak to us, and then that voice comes and tries to shut it down, right? Because that voice is afraid of creativity being expressed through God's people, isn't it, right? Where we step out and we take a risk and we begin to like lean into the thing that God's kind of drawing us into that's going to even build that relationship with Him even deeper. So
yeah.
beautiful.
So, I got home and I thought, okay, so I went in and I took out paints from when the kids were growing up. And
Never painted before.
Never painted before.
Oh my gosh.
And so I didn't have a lot of supplies, but I just started painting and I was like, oh my goodness, okay. And I just felt like, like when you take a risk and you experience something that you've never done before, I knew that I didn't think about that. I didn't know what that was. It just was inside of me.
Wow.
And it came out. And so, so then I came back to church the next week and I was talking to the women about it and like, what's going on here with me, And so that was a big thing. But I've had so many, I could tell you so many stories about, where, that God meets me when on the canvas, so to speak. And I was afraid, I started working with another artist and, praying, like, what are you trying to do here? What do you want to do? And I don't know, maybe a year into it or whatever, I felt God say, I want you to paint live. And I thought, oh my, that's not for me. I had seen like one or two other times someone painting live at the harbor, and so I just emailed Darren, and he said someone will be in touch with you, and and so and they did. So I was scheduled like 3 weeks out, and actually before I even painted, and I thought it was kind of ridiculous that they didn't even want to see any work. Like, what is she going to paint? I was like, who does that, right? So now I'm preparing 3 weeks, but I get a call a couple of days later and say, well, we're taking a small group to a prophetic conference in Columbia, and they just called and wanted to know if we could take a prophetic painter. Would you like to paint? And I said, yeah, sure. So I thought, this is not for me, so this is on you. And if I'm going to make a mistake, let's do it in Columbia, okay? So I was testing God out. I thought, that's just how crazy God is about us, right?
Yeah, and for years you did paint live at Harbor, and so many beautiful paintings came out of your life in those times. One which Wendy and I have the privilege of having own, that hangs in a very special place in our lives and our hearts, and I look at it often, and it's such a beautiful expression of God's love. Yeah. One of the cool things that we wanted to share with you guys before I let Sarah go is we've been kind of dreaming about some stuff of how can we broaden discipleship outside of just gatherings and even our small groups, and get other expressive opportunities for people to grow in their walk with God. And one of the ways that we wanted to try to do that was through creative expression. So could you share a little bit about what we're thinking there and what we're looking at doing, and give people an opportunity just to hear about what we're trying to see happen?
Yeah, I guess what I'm going to, I've been now at this for some time, and I have this process that I want to share, that I've shared with others, and it's a process for transformation. It's just a culmination of my experience over the last, 10 or 12 years since I started this, and so basically we're inviting you in for a creative experience, and I'm just going to set the table, and it's going to be a guided experience where you can just open up and be creative. One of the things about creativity is that it helps us to become childlike. The childlikeness opens my heart and mind. It gets me out of my head, and it brings me down into my heart. It brings me get in touch with what I carry. Each of us have something that we're carrying. And because of resistance in different forms, we don't go there. You know, I hear so often from those that come to my workshops that, you know, it's a luxury to be creative. You know, you have to wait till everything's in order for you to let go and have fun. And it's backwards because, see, you know, creativity is really love, right? It's of the Creator. Everything, you know, it's just an expression of love. So I hope that we just break down resistance. I hope that we can, like, have a collective experience where individuals are coming in touch with, you know, what's going on inside of them, you know, and give you some tools through this exercise where you can take that and continue to experience it for yourself. Because it takes practice. It takes practice. It takes setting aside a little bit of time and intentionally being childlike. And what you'll come to know and what I've come to experience in life is that becomes a way of living for me. You know, it's just like love is a way to live, right? Yeah. We live out of a place of love. And so, you know, God's creative. He got each and every one of us here in a different way, through a different set of circumstances. Some of us through pain, some of us through, you know, just circumstances, just drop by, you know, lots of different ways. And so, yeah, and it's exciting to watch people come into that. It's exciting to pass on what's, you know, freely been given to me, you know, just by showing up. And in our relationship with God, you know, He reveals things to us, and you have a deeper intimacy. And you have a way to approach life. And so when you're out at work or wherever and life happens, you begin to work more creatively, because when you let go and become childlike, you know, you're not worried about what people think. You're living from within, you know, it's coming out. So, you know, I just think of little kids when growing up, and I don't know if they do this anymore, we'd take our family out to dinner and they would give the kids a little something to color while we were waiting for dinner. And I thought, gosh, what a beautiful picture that is. We have to get still. We have to be still. And that was a beautiful, creative way to get kids engaged and get them in the now, so they're not worried about then, like when I'm getting dinner, right?
Yeah.
So creativity brings me into the now.
Beautiful.
And that's where His presence is, and we can all create in His presence.
Love it. Love it. So this is a first attempt. Come on, let's give her a hand. It's so good. It's amazing. So we put this out there in our monthly email, and we have X number of spots, and already half the spots have been filled. So we're like, man, Jesus, you're on something, up to something here. So anyhow, the next few people that register will get this locked in, and we'll do it again if you miss out. So anyhow, take advantage. It's going to be a great thing. It's going to be multiple sessions, correct? There's a small fee involved. We're going to do it, I think, here at the church. At the church. So this will be the gathering point, and there'll be more information. You can scan the QR code for more. It's on our website as well. Yep. But can we give it up for Sarah? She's amazing. Thank you, Sarah. So proud of you. Love you. Thank you.